Coffee time, coffee time. I love coffee. You know what else I love? This coaster that my girlfriend got me for my birthday. It's a vinyl coaster and it's super cute. It says Hotel Cauliflower on this one instead of Hotel California. The other one says like Brighter Side of the Moon instead of Dark Side of the Moon. Comes in a 5-pack. I absolutely love it. I think it's so cute. I'll link it in the description below for you to check out. It's my go-to coaster. Might make a good gift for your loved one or for yourself. But today we're going to be talking about the difference between the 1723 THX Tower speakers and the 1528 bookshelf speakers. Both of these speakers come in around at $4,500 US. So people are wondering which one is a better speaker, and we're gonna answer that today in this video. This is Speaker War. So let's start off with build quality, right? So both of these cabinets are made out of HDF, which is a higher density fiberboard instead of medium density fiberboard that's commonly used in budget speakers, and even high-end speakers use MDF. There's nothing wrong with MDF, but HDF is just a better, higher quality material. And the fact that they use on these speakers is an excellent thing. Now, I know some people are like, oh, you know, $4,500 is still a high price tag to pay for a pair of speakers. And I do agree with that, but we'll talk about the value proposition later. But one other thing is that they use higher quality premium materials. When they can get away with something like MDF, they still opt to choose a higher quality material like HDF. And for that reason, both of these speakers should really get a point. But instead, I'm gonna give it to the 1528 bookshelf just because it's using thicker 2-inch panels instead of 1 to 1.5 inches on the towers. Absolutely nuts. You don't see that anywhere. 2-inch thick HDF panels. Really good attention to detail, and that makes these speakers 66 pounds each. But both of these speakers are extremely well built. Basically no cabinet resonance to note because they're very well braced and very well built. Very good build quality. Now, I'm not gonna give any points per se for the binding post quality. They're both using rhodium plated copper binding posts. Both are very nice. However, it's slightly nicer on the bookshelf because it's a higher series. The 1528 series are higher, so they made it look a little bit nicer, easier to use, and I think that it's a better binding post, but it doesn't warrant an entire point in my opinion. So maybe we'll give it like a 0.5. The bookshelf is going to have higher quality parts like polypropylene capacitors, wire wound resistors, and air coil inductors, while the 1723 THX Tower speakers have good crossover components for the price, but in no way is it comparable to the 1528 series in my opinion. There's more attention to detail and attention to quality materials on the 1528's crossover. And on top of that, little things like not using ferrous magnet materials like steel in the signal path for a more pure signal transmission is going to be an added attention to detail bonus for the 1528 series. Where they do differ is going to be in the technology. So these speakers use a little bit of a different design choice for the time alignment of the drivers so that the drivers come to you, to the listener, at the listening position all in phase at the exact same time, and that's important. And for the 1723 THX Towers, it's using a common slanted design where they slant the cabinet slightly to time align the drivers, whereas on the 1528 bookshelf speaker, you get the more elaborate curved front baffle, also made out of HDF. And you know how hard it is to make this? I think we take it, we're underappreciating this. They take thin layers of HDF, curve it, glue it, compress it. It's a very tedious process that takes ages and is pretty costly to do. But they did it because it's, that much better in my opinion, at the very least, when it comes to imaging, phase coherency, the ability to hear the nuance and detail into the music. I think is a superior choice. So therefore it's going to go to the 1528, a singular point. Now the 1528 series use an elliptical waveguide versus a circular waveguide on the 1723 series, but I'm not going to give a specific point for a different waveguide design. In speaker design world, the elliptical waveguide is considered a superior design and it is a little bit more costlier to manufacture. However, I would say that there's pros and cons to each design as always, and so I'm not going to give a specific point for that one. but I will give a point to the 1528 Bookshelf for having acoustic grills in front of the mid-range driver as well as the tweeter to help with that off-axis response further along with the waveguide, which we don't see on the 1723 series. Now in terms of drivers, we're going to see a soft dome tweeter on the 1723 Towers, and we're going to see a lithium magnesium tweeter on the Bookshelf. And this tweeter is rare. The lithium magnesium tweeter is rare. You never see it anywhere. In fact, it's my first time hearing one, and I absolutely love how sweet and delicate and nuanced it sounds. Now, both of these speakers are not jacked up in the high frequency, so you're not gonna shred your ears listening to these speakers. But man, even though they both have great linearity in terms of linear response, they're both about the same, they're both neutral, you really hear that delicacy, more quiet noise floor and detail and nuance with this tweeter, in my opinion. And not to mention the mid-range driver behind the acoustic grill, which has a huge magnet, right? And that's kind of one of the reasons they had to have this machined aluminum fascia to hold it, because it was so heavy, right? And this mid-range driver, 5 inches, is a great mid-range driver. It's commonly similar quality to the ones used in like $9,000 mini monitors that's meant to play mid-range and up with great accuracy. This speaker does it. It's comparable to like $9,000 mini monitors that I have tried, like the Charisma Caprice. Absolutely amazing mid-range drivers, and I don't think it compares to the 1723 series of speakers drivers quality. Even though I have to say 1723 series drivers are no slouch either. The 8-inch bass driver on the 1528 Bookshelf is absolutely crazy. High excursion woofers, and you're gonna feel that. Now again, the bass response is very similar between these two speakers, so the extension and the amount of bass is very similar. However, I would say that you get a little bit more bass oomph and definitely more bodily sensation and more air movement with that piston-like kind of bodily dynamics that you get. Definitely more on the 1528 Bookshelf, so definitely warrants a point for better driver designs. Now talking about the bass, where the 1723 Towers take a point is in flexibility, because it has 3 ports in the back and you can plug in different ones to get a different bass response that matches your room better. It has better bass flexibility when you want to tune it to your room. Now the 1528 series just has 1 single port and you can plug it, but it will just make a sealed design. It just rolls off the bass sooner so that you can put it closer to the wall. So in terms of bass flexibility, a point goes to the 1723 Towers. Now let's talk about the power requirements. Now, so both of these speakers, because of their neutral and natural kind of sound characteristic and because of its dynamic capabilities, they sound pretty good with variety of different gear. However, the 1723 series is going to be a little bit more flexible with the gear that it can handle, meaning it's more sensitive. So it's going to be louder and able to get louder and fill a bigger room with less power than the 1528 Bookshelf. The 1528 Bookshelf is rated conservatively at 84 dB, but I measured it around 86 dB, so it's not super crazy, but you're still going to need more power than the Towers to power it. Now there is a misconception where people think bigger towers need more power. It's actually the other way around. Smaller speakers need more power because their sensitivity is usually lower and their impedance is usually lower as well. In this case, there's not much of a difference in impedance. Both of them are just about 4 ohm nominal, but nevertheless, you're gonna need more power with the same amount of space. Given the same amplifier, you're gonna push the amplifier harder to drive the Bookshelf. So therefore, I'm gonna give a point to the 1723 Towers for this one. Now keep in mind though, in a small to medium sized room, even the Bookshelf doesn't need crazy amount of power. It's only in bigger spaces, given the same big room, that the Towers is going to be a better choice, especially if you have tube amplifiers and you ask me which speaker, I would say the Towers, because it's more sensitive and it's gonna be able to get louder and give you more headroom in the same given space. But again, if you're in a small to medium sized room, the Bookshelf is going to get plenty loud even with tube amplifiers. I've tried it with my Brunico and it got plenty loud for me. And that brings us to value proposition. Now, both of these speakers are extremely good value, but they take up the same kind of space because even though one is a bookshelf, and I know some people go crazy when I call it a bookshelf because it's a stand mount. It's a stand mount because it's heavy, it's big. No bookshelf is gonna handle the weight and the size of these speakers. I get it. But the whole point being, yes, the stand mount speakers is going to take up the same floor space as the towers just because they're big stand mount speakers. And on top of that, you're gonna have to spend additional money on the stands. These speakers don't come with stands. And the stands, the matching stands, actually cost quite a bit. So you're gonna go over that $4,500 budget quite quickly. And even if you go with a third party, you're gonna end up crossing that $4,500 mark. So I'm going to deduct a point for that one on the bookshelf. Now that brings us to sound quality. And in terms of sound quality, both of these speakers are excellent. Both are neutral and natural sounding to my ears with great dynamic capabilities on both. However, if you ask me which one based on sound quality and sound quality alone, I would say personally, I would choose the 1528 bookshelf speakers just because it has more cleanliness and clarity while being easier to listen to. And that is the key here. It's easy to make a speaker that sounds more clear and by jacking up the high frequency, but that's not what they did here. It sounds more detailed, it sounds more clear. But because of the proper engineering and because of its great off-axis response, it has a great, nice, wide and deep soundstage. And one of my criticisms with the towers on the 1723 series was that the soundstage was a bit narrow and constricted. Compared to the 1528, it sounds wide and deep and has a realistic soundstage that you can really appreciate. On top of that, you get this great focused imaging that can separate all the instruments separately so the music doesn't get busy. Meanwhile, being forgiving to poor recordings and modern recordings so that you don't have to pick and choose what kind of music you play based on your system. So for that, absolutely, the 1528 series is going to be the more nuanced, superior, higher definition loudspeaker to my ears. And this is just a bonus, but the bass capability, the bodily sensation on the 1528 bookshelf is just absolutely nuts. So that's it from me. I hope this video was helpful and entertaining. And if it was, please click the like and subscribe button. And also, if you have any additional questions, leave it in the comment section below and I'll try my best to answer each one. And until next time, rock on.